You wake up, and there's this quiet certainty. You're you. You're in your body. You're seeing through your eyes. You're here. But what if that certainty isn't what it seems? What if you're not inside your body at all? What if your body is inside you? From the moment you open your eyes, your brain starts painting reality, color by color, sound by sound, sensation by sensation. You think you're seeing the world, but really you're creating it. Every sight, every sound, every feeling, all of it is being assembled, moment by moment, in the theater of your mind. And that's where the illusion begins. The idea that you're a little pilot sitting behind your eyes, steering this biological machine through space. But that you, that sense of being located behind your face, isn't something you are. It's something your brain builds. Neuroscientists discovered that your sense of self comes from an area called the temporoparietal junction. It's like your internal GPS, constantly integrating signals from your eyes, ears and body to keep you oriented in space. And when that region is disrupted, something strange happens. You can suddenly find yourself outside your body, watching from the ceiling, seeing your own hands, your own face, from somewhere else entirely. The first time this was discovered, it was an accident, a neurosurgeon stimulating a patient's brain during surgery, and with just a few milliamps of electricity, her consciousness slipped out of her body. She looked down, saw herself lying there, and felt more awake than ever. It wasn't a dream, it wasn't a trick. It felt realer than reality itself. And here's the thing, that's not rare. Millions of people report similar experiences, often during moments of deep exhaustion, emotional shock, or right at the edge of sleep. What's strange is that the brain seems to work harder to keep you inside your body than to let you out. One scientist even said, "It's not the out-of-body experience that's strange, it's the inside-body one." The idea that your consciousness is precisely located here, behind your eyes, is not a given. It's an achievement. Your brain is constantly stitching together sensations, memories and predictions just to convince you that you exist in one place. So when that system breaks, even for a second, the illusion collapses. You realize something that's both unsettling and freeing. You were never really inside your body to begin with. When the illusion of being in your body begins to crack, something else steps forward, something ancient, quiet, and aware. The previous section showed how the sense of self can slip beyond physical boundaries. But what if it can also split, multiply, or exist in more than one place at once? That's what scientists discovered when they looked deeper into the brain, and what they found reshaped everything we thought we knew about consciousness. It wasn't just that you could feel outside your body, it was that you might not even be one single thing. Back in the 1960s, neurosurgeon Roger Sperry performed an operation that sounded simple on paper, but ended up cracking open one of the deepest mysteries of the mind. He severed the corpus callosum, the bridge connecting the two hemispheres of the brain, in patients with severe epilepsy. The seizures stopped, but so did the unity of consciousness. These patients began to act as if two different selves were living inside one body. One hand reached to button a shirt, while the other unbuttoned it. One side wanted an apple, while the other reached for an orange. Even their dreams, thoughts, and goals diverged. It was as if two worlds had always been there, hidden beneath the illusion of one. And what's more haunting is that both selves believed they were you. Each had its own preferences, awareness, and memories, yet neither realized the other existed. The conscious experience, that voice narrating your life, the sense of I am, turned out to be more fragile than anyone imagined. If a single physical cut could divide it, maybe consciousness was never a byproduct of the brain at all. Maybe the brain just gives it shape, the way a prism splits one light into many colors. The beam exists before the glass and continues after it's gone. The same pattern appears in other altered states. Under the influence of DMT or deep meditation, the boundaries between self and world start to blur. You can feel your consciousness expand, stretch, and dissolve into everything around you. Researchers found that during such experiences, the brain's default mode network, the system that keeps your sense of being a separate self intact, goes silent. Regions that normally never communicate begin to merge, forming new pathways. Visual areas blend with sound, emotion fuses with memory, and logic melts into pure experience. Consciousness isn't shutting down, it's reorganizing. It's stepping outside the cage of individuality into a larger field of awareness. And that's the key. Consciousness doesn't belong to the body. The body is more like a focal point, a gathering of awareness into a specific perspective. When those physical boundaries loosen, you begin to realize that awareness doesn't fade or fracture. It only reveals more of itself. You're not inside your brain, trapped behind your eyes. You're the vast space around it, observing the movement of thoughts, sensations, and worlds forming and dissolving. When the mind quiets, the silent witness remains, unshaken, infinite, watching through every body, every eye, every life. Once you understand that consciousness can slip, split, or expand beyond the body, a deeper question appears. What happens when it reaches the very edge of life itself? If awareness isn't confined to the brain, then death, the supposed end of everything, might not be an ending at all. It could be a doorway, one that reveals where consciousness truly resides, when it's no longer bound by flesh or bone. And for countless people who've stood on that threshold, what they've found beyond it changes everything. At the moment when the heart stops and the brain flatlines, something impossible happens. Consciousness continues. People who have been clinically dead describe floating above their bodies, watching doctors work, hearing conversations, seeing details that should have been invisible. They describe a sense of clarity, sharper than waking life, as if their awareness had been freed from static. It's not hazy or dreamlike. It's vivid, grounded, and unmistakably real. When their bodies were silent, their consciousness was more alive than ever. That shouldn't be possible. And yet again and again, it happens. These experiences follow patterns that are eerily consistent across time, culture, and belief. There's the sensation of leaving the body, the pull through a tunnel of light, the presence of overwhelming love and intelligence, something that feels like home. People return from these journeys transformed. Fear of death dissolves. The world feels interconnected. They talk about seeing from everywhere at once, about understanding that their self was never limited to one body lying on a hospital bed. And while science tries to explain these stories through chemical reactions or lack of oxygen, those explanations collapse under one question. How do you see the world when your eyes are closed and your brain is off? Some bring back details that can be verified. Tools in the room, songs playing, words spoken when there was no measurable brain activity to process sound or sight. Others return with knowledge, languages, or mathematical concepts they'd never learned before. If these experiences were just dying neurons firing their last sparks, they wouldn't contain accurate information about the world outside the body. Something else is happening, something that suggests consciousness isn't generated inside the skull, but is simply using it while we're alive. And when that connection breaks, even for a few minutes, awareness doesn't vanish, it expands. Imagine the brain as a lantern, focusing a vast field of light into one beam. When the lantern goes dark, the light doesn't disappear. It returns to its source, diffused and infinite. That's why so many who return from the edge describe it not as an ending, but a homecoming. They say there's no fear, no separation, no body, just pure, boundless knowing. It's as if they finally remember what they've always been, consciousness itself, existing outside the body, observing through it for a while before returning to the field from which it came. When people return from that edge, the place beyond heartbeat and breath, they often describe the same realization. Consciousness doesn't end with the body, it only expands once the filters fall away. That moment, where awareness separates from the physical and still sees, still feels, still is, forces us to question the oldest assumption of all, that the brain creates consciousness. What if it doesn't? What if the brain is simply a receiver, tuning into something vast and ever-present, like a radio catching an endless broadcast of awareness? The signal doesn't come from the radio, it comes through it. That changes everything. Instead of thinking of consciousness as trapped in a body, you begin to see the body as a focusing lens, a temporary point where infinite awareness gathers to experience itself through human eyes. Your thoughts, emotions, and senses are the ripples created when that vast ocean of consciousness flows through the narrow channel of physical form. When the body breaks, when the channel closes, the current doesn't stop. It just returns to the ocean, uncontained, unrestricted, and whole. That's why near-death experiences feel more vivid than life, because they're glimpses of reality unfiltered by biology. Ancient teachings hinted at this long before neuroscience existed. They spoke of an all-pervading consciousness, a field that gives rise to everything yet belongs to nothing in their stories. The human body was never the prison of the soul, but the instrument of experience. When awareness looks through the lens of matter, it believes it's separate. When that lens shatters, awareness remembers itself. Modern discoveries about the brain's limits are beginning to echo that wisdom, showing that what we call you is not an object but a frequency of awareness vibrating through form. You can sense this even now. Close your eyes and feel the space around you, the quiet presence that doesn't move, doesn't think, but is. That stillness has been there through every change in your life, untouched by time or thought. It doesn't live behind your eyes or inside your skull. It extends outward, blending with the room, the air, the unseen. That presence is consciousness outside the body, always watching, always aware, waiting for you to notice it again. And maybe that's the real reason you're here, to remember, to realize that the body is not who you are, but where you are for now, a temporary vessel for infinite awareness to taste individuality. When you understand this, life becomes less about surviving and more about experiencing. You begin to see that every breath, every face, every heartbeat is consciousness recognizing itself in another form. When the filters of the body finally fall away, nothing is lost. You simply return to what you've always been, the infinite field of awareness that holds every universe, every dream, every you that ever was. So maybe the strangest thing isn't leaving your body, it's believing you were ever trapped inside one. Consciousness doesn't live behind your eyes or inside your skull. It flows through you, around you, beyond you, the same way the ocean flows through a wave. The wave rises, takes form, crashes, and returns to the sea, but it was always the sea. If your consciousness exists outside your body, then everything you think you're separated from is really part of you. The light, the people, the world, all reflections of the same awareness looking back at itself. So take a breath. Feel that quiet presence that's always been watching, the one that doesn't age, doesn't sleep, doesn't end. That's you, not the voice in your head, not the body you see in the mirror. You're the field it all rises from. When the filters fall away, whether through awe, love, or even death, consciousness doesn't vanish, it simply reveals its essence. And through you, the universe gets to know itself.